Let's see if this topic piques anyone's interest. I figured it was about time to do a video about it. I've got a weird spot in my beard that's not the right color. It is Saturday morning. A lot of people might be hungover. Don't know yet. We'll see. I figured enough people have sent me messages and asked me about the steel and composition and stuff that I was going to do a video, but I thought this would be a better way to do it because you guys can ask the questions. Like, you can ask some questions about the steel while we're talking about it. I talked about it a little bit in a Instagram live feed yesterday. I finally did something to this that I had to resharpen it, that stropping wouldn't do it. There was a piece of metal. I'm doing all right. How are you, Robert? There was a piece of metal in some of the cardboard I cut, and I completely just knocked the edge off of this. So the whole week and a half of testing of cutting up cardboard and then just stropping it back, it's over because I had to sharpen it. There was just no other option. And so it was starting to get to where, like, by the time I got done yesterday, I went over, my neighbor had a bunch of cardboard. I saw that they'd gotten a bunch of stuff delivered. I was like, hey, can I have that cardboard? And they're like, for what? I was like, just gonna cut it up. I was like, they know I'm a knife maker, and they're like, oh. I was like, yeah, I gotta test this knife. And so I was cutting up cardboard. There was a staple that I didn't see in one of the pieces, and I just knocked the edge clear off of it. Just stropping it was doing nothing. It didn't chip though, not a chip. It rolled badly, but it didn't chip. So that's a really good sign. That was one of the things I was going to do after I cut up all the cardboard. I hate doing things like this, but I was going to take this and I was going to cut into some metal and deflect the edge and see if it chipped. Now, like I said, none of the stuff I did was scientific. So, but I thought, since I have the capability to live feed, and a lot of you guys I've gotten a lot of emails, questions about the steel, like, hey, I don't want to say it in the video, but you know, I'm curious about the steel. A lot of people want the composition. I can't tell you the composition. I promised Russell I wouldn't. As a matter of fact, deleted the text where he told me what the composition was. Like, he sent me the composition and I deleted that because I didn't want to have it, just on the off chance that I would, like, you know, spill the beans. I don't want to ruin their proprietary thing. But yeah, so if you guys got some questions about this, that's what I figured I would do this morning. If this is going to be one of those ones where I just stand here and talk to myself, then I'll just stop it and I'll delete it. So I did this because I know a lot of you guys have questions. So I've got a lot of other things that I could do. So if you guys don't really want to ask questions, let me know right now so we don't waste a bunch of time. But I'm really impressed with the steel. So I'll just start off by saying, really, really impressed with the steel. I had a lot of people that were saying that, oh, I bet it's just like a powdered version of D2 or something like that. And right now, you can't purchase it anywhere. They had some prototypes that they sold. They had some in each color, and they sold it. A roll? Okay, I disagree. I think a roll shows that the steel is not too brittle. A roll means you're more likely to deflect your blade than break your blade. An edge that rolls a little bit can be brought up a lot easier. Bringing a roll out is way easier than bringing out a chip. If you want a chippy steel, get S30V. I completely disagree. I feel that a rolled edge off of that hitting steel is much better than a chipped edge. I can take care of a roll. I literally took care of a roll on this knife in like a minute. A chip, I have to remove so much more material. No, you don't. You don't. You really don't. You're taking off so much less material to take out a roll. You're just taking the forward leading edge and bringing it back to shape. With a chip, you have to take off all the material on all the sides. I think that a chip shows I think a roll or a deformation of the edge versus a chip shows a better strength. No, I'm just talking about it just took the edge. It just rolled the apex off to the point where it just would not strop back up. It tried. Don't get me wrong. It tried to come back up, but it just didn't. I'm not talking like the whole, no, it was like you could barely see it and you could feel it with your thumb. It blended the edge. I hit a piece of metal. I cut cardboard with this for over a week and never sharpened it. Like, I completely dulled this, like, to the point where you're like, oh, it's not wanting to cut cardboard. Lay it on a strop and it brings it right back up. So, but what I was going to tell you, okay, so now there are people asking questions about it. This stuff holds an edge. Hey, what's up, Luigi? This stuff holds an edge really well. Even through, like, I was cutting a lot of cardboard and stuff like that. And cardboard is notoriously hard on an edge. Like I said, none of it was scientific. I wasn't approaching it at the same angle every time. It wasn't the same thickness of cardboard. It wasn't the same type of cardboard. That's scientific when you do things like that. I just wanted to see, because I noticed that this stropped so well. I just wanted to see. I said, okay, I'm not going to touch it to a stone. And I cut down almost 3 5-gallon bins. My trash can out there is a 5-gallon trash can. It was an ordnance container at one point that I'm using as a trash can, but it's a 5-gallon container. And I filled that thing up 2.5, almost a third time with cardboard that I was just cutting everything I could cut. And on top of that, I was cutting other things besides that. I used the knife outside of just using it for cardboard. And I was able to strop it back up to a razor edge real easily. I'm going to tell you right now, your AUS-8 rat is not going to strop up as easily as this, because I have several knives in AUS-8 and it does not strop back to an edge like that. This one, I'm testing it by using it heavily and only touching it up on a fine ceramic. Well, see, it's really not a budget steel. They're adding this to their lineup because they're making it themselves. They're adding it to the lineup. It's kind of a step up. It's going to be like a mid-grade. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of a mid area, but I think they stumbled upon a steel that really, really performs extremely well. It really, really does. It does a lot of things like a lot of other steels. It sharpens real similarly to AUS-8 or RWL-34, something that's relatively simple to sharpen. And it takes a really aggressive, bitey edge. As long as you're not, if you go too high, this is one of those steels that I'm recommended, like both of these are like, I think this is at 600 grit. This is technically, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. This is technically like a 3000 grit edge because I am using this solely, no matter how hard I use it, on a ceramic rod to touch it back up. And it's great. I don't like 14. It compares to, I just told you, AUS-8, RWL-34. I don't do much in 14. I like Sandvik steel, but I don't have very much stuff in the Sandvik, that 14C. But this, the other thing about this is I have not been cleaning these knives. I have cut acidic things with them. It is, but I don't, like I said, I don't have a lot that I've had come in. I've only ever had like 2 knives come in it. So as a point of reference, I know better. I really haven't had very many knives come in 14C. I have been cutting acidic things that normally would stain a blade. Guys, I would appreciate it if you're gonna stick around if you'd give it a like. I really would. It would make it great if I could get more likes on the videos while we're doing them. It definitely does make them much more visible. But at any rate, I've been cutting stuff and not washing the blade. I actually got, I can't remember which one it was. I opened a thing of ferric chloride, which we use to etch blades, to etch steel. It eats into steel. And I can't remember which one of these I opened it with, but I got some on it. And I looked, and it looked like it was cloudy. I was like, up. It ate into the blade, and I wiped it down. And I was like, oh, it didn't even patina. I've cut all kinds of things that normally would patina D2 or VG10 and things like that, and it just wipes off. This has a large amount of chromium in it. well up into the teens on percentage of chromium. So, you know, there's a lot of chromium in it. It's really, really, really corrosion resistant. This has been in my pocket. I've cut food. I've left it wet. There's some stains on it that are just basically stuff that's stuck to it. I may have finally got something to pit it. I think I had some lemon juice or something that got on it, but as I'm looking at it, I think it's just gonna wipe right off. I have actively been trying to get it corroded. 52100, it's just another, I've never really had much come in it. So I really couldn't tell you. I've never had a knife in it. Never made a knife in it. So, but we're talking about AR-RPM9. So that's the sharpening part. Like it sharpens really easy. It does better on aluminum oxide. So it does better on cheaper stones at a lower grit. I don't recommend taking this above about 1,000. You know what? I was gonna say it sharpens like a high carbon steel, but it doesn't. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I've used diamond on it, and I don't like sharpening it on diamond. It just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't give me the same result. It gets sharp, but it just doesn't feel the same. It does the best at about no more than, like, I really don't think going above 1,000 on this, which is a good working sharpness anyway. I'm gonna do a video about that. You guys know I take things to 10 and 12,000 grit, but my own personal stuff usually doesn't. So it's a powdered steel, yes. There you go. Yeah, it's powdered steel. It's got fairly good amount of carbon. It's got a lot of chromium, and it's got a lot of other elements in it that give it this flex. There's a lot of flex in that blade, and it's not a thin blade. Like you can see, like I'm flexing it. It has a lot of flex. Like I bent the tip and then just pushed it down. I did it on purpose. I have done things with this knife you shouldn't do just because I wanted to test it. It's a prototype. That's what I do. I want to see how my knife's going to perform. And so the tip got bent and I laid it on the counter and I was like, oh, okay, let's see if I break the tip off this, because I've done tests like this before on my own knives. I was doing this. I bent the tip on one of these. I wanted to see if I could flex it back. And I couldn't. It didn't break, but I couldn't straighten it. This, I was able to straighten it right back out. I mean, it was a visible deformation. It was bent. Put it on the kitchen counter, a little bit of lean, straighten it right out. Now, it doesn't hold an edge as well as some of the other powdered super steels. And it definitely doesn't hold an edge like 20 CV. But the fact is, it holds an edge really well for something that sharpens as easy as it does. It sharpens so easy that you would think that it's one of those like gas station knife fucking things where you sharpen it and it gets dull and you gotta sharpen it. It really doesn't. Sharpening it is simple. It really doesn't take much to sharpen it, and it holds that edge really well. But then the fact is, like, it strops so well on just simple things. I strop it on newspaper. I don't strop this one on newspaper because the blade has a tendency to just, like, as you wrap it around something, that it just cuts through. I think it's 58 to 60, 59, 60, something. It's like right around 60. And so stropping it on a piece of newspaper wrapped around a block of wood, and it comes right back up to hair popping sharp. Now this one I've been stropping on an actual strop because, like I said, this blade shape, it has a tendency to, especially consider this is really sharp. It just wants to dig in when you get back towards the tip. So this one I've been stropping it on just newspaper, and I'm not lying, guys. This thing is aggressively sharp. Let's see if it does it. I've been using it, so I know you guys like this example. It's trying to cut. It's trying to cut paper towel. There we go. It's cutting paper towel. But like I said, I've been using it. I haven't stropped this for a while. So like super sharp, brought up on newspaper. Other thing too, if you have a fine or an ultra fine ceramic, this was a 600 grit edge, and then I've been using my ceramic rod to maintain it. So I've been cutting a lot with this one, and then just going back and touching it on the ceramic rod, and it does great. And you just drop it on cardboard, and it is like, no joke, guys. It's hair slinging sharp. So the maintenance on it is insane. I'm afraid that a steel like this could put me out of business when it comes to sharpening, because it's so easy to maintain. As long as you don't hit something hard, like a piece of metal, I'm convinced I could have went a very long time without sharpening this. Actually sharpening this, if I had not hit that staple that I didn't see in that piece of wood, or that piece of cardboard. If I had been cutting down just like soda boxes and stuff instead of a box that he got furniture in, I don't think that I would have needed to sharpen this for a very long time. This one I've been using to the point where I use this and hit a ceramic plate. I've stropped it on diamond, but I think it really does best. It really feels the best. The edge feels the best to me off of newspaper or chromium oxide on that leather strop. That's what I've been doing this one on. And I'm talking like, I did it in an Instagram live feed. You might not have seen it. I had been cutting down a bunch of cardboard, and I would let it get to where it wouldn't cut hair again. And then I would do 2 passes. 1, 2 on each side. 2 strokes on each side on that leather strop with chromium, and it was right back up to just shaven hair. And I'm like, I wasn't letting it get dull, but I've let it get to where you're like, oh, wow, that's pretty dull. And then just strop it, and it comes right back up. Like I said, I've been stropping this one on newspaper. This one just rips the newspaper when you get it, because it's got a really acute point. There's no belly to it. In and out of the sheath, it's not dulling. It doesn't really scratch. It doesn't scratch up too badly. Let's see here. I've been using it this is going on 2 weeks now. I did get, okay, so let me get this set here where we can get a good look at it. So you're gonna see some scratching on it from the sheath, because I carried this to the beach, and so you're gonna see some scratching like going this way, maybe on one side of this. Yeah, you can see it there. I took it to the beach, and I got sand in it, and there's still a little bit of sand in the sheath. And but I mean, other than that, like cutting, I'm not seeing any scratches going this way from cutting. So it got a little bit of linear scratches in it because there was sand in the sheath. How's the sheath? It's not what we were here to talk about, but the sheath is great. There's no rattle. Comes with the chain, tons of retention. It's nice. It pops in. You can hear it. There's no rattle. It doesn't hit any of the grommets. It's a very well-made sheath. I put soft loops on mine. They don't come with soft loops. They come with a chain only. You'll have to order soft loops on Amazon. But back to what I was saying, like, so I've cut and cut and cut and cut with this, and really not seeing any edge damage. Easy to sharpen. It comes back up screaming sharp on an ultrafine ceramic from dull. Like, I let it get dull, and just a few passes on an ultrafine Spyderco ultrafine ceramic plate, and it came right back up. Usually, not that they're not a good stone, but usually they're like a finished stone. They're like, okay, I've done all the other steps, let me do this. Usually you can't bring an edge back like that from dull to sharp on an ultrafine ceramic. It just doesn't have the horsepower. It doesn't have the abrasive horsepower to do it. They're great stones, but usually they're a finished stone. No, I was able to take a dull knife, take this knife dull, just a few passes on ultrafine ceramic, and then just make sure I'd knock a burr off, and it felt like a brand new knife. So I'm just kind of, I mean, I know the composition and I know what it is similar to. I haven't even stropped this. That's just right off a stone, just a couple passes off a stone this morning to do that. So I can tell you what it's similar to. Now, oh, I love the RIA. Like, I'm telling you, if they told me I had to give this back after testing, I would have bought one. So at any rate, what was I getting ready to say? More about the steel. So forgot where I was going with this. At any rate, oh, the composition. Now, the composition is similar. I'm going to give you something it's similar to, but in no way, shape, or form is it the same steel. There's a lot of differences, but what it is similar to in composition with ratios and things like that is a steel that Spyderco used to use called G1. Now, there's a difference in chromium, there's a difference in magnesium, there's a difference in carbon. So this is not the same, but like the closest I found when looking at steel composition with the composition that Russell gave me was G1 and G2 steel, GIN and G2 steel. They're not the same, but this doesn't perform like that. I used to love that steel. Now, it does sharpen real similar to that. Not hard to sharpen, easy to maintain, and really rust resistant. Other than that, the other things that I'm showing you, like stropping up, I've never seen a steel that strops as easily as this does. And I mean, in the field, like, okay, say what this knife would be great for, a small little trapper, you're out in the field, you're skinning small game, and this gets dull, because flesh and skin and hair are hard on an edge. You just take a strop, and when it starts to get that way, you just wipe your blade off, strop it up, and go right back to skinning out. I mean, this is a really good blade shape for small game. I wish I had a knife that was like this when I was growing up on a farm. It would have been so much easier to take care of. But yeah, like this, I was afraid this being super thin and in an untested steel that I would have some issues. And I'm super, super happy with how these are doing, because this grind is super thin. Guys, it's super thin. It was intended to be that way, and it just cuts and cuts and cuts. Let's see. Hell with it. I can't ever cut on camera like I want to. So yeah, as far as this steel, I'm super impressed with it. I didn't, like, for a budget line of knives, to have a steel this good is gonna be, I'm hoping that this changes a lot of things in knife world. It really does. I'm tired of seeing companies that make good stuff just because people don't like the country it came from being. Here's the thing. You're talking about it like the best new budget steel. I'm talking about it like it's one of the best new all-around production knife steels. I'm not talking budget. Like, I would make a custom knife out of this. Like, I would. I would make one of my knives out of it. As a matter of fact, I talked about getting with Artisan to see if I could purchase a piece of it to make a knife for myself from the steel, because it's really good steel. Like that's where I want to. That's what I wanted to get out. Like, this is not like just in the budget realm. This is getting up, but it's not. Sandvik steel. I've dealt with Sandvik steel. Like, I know that 14C, there's a little difference, but basically 14C is Sandvik steel. I mean, it's kind of the same. The Sandvik steels are great. This does not. This is different than that. It's a different feel. It's a different edge. It's the way it maintains. The corrosion resistant is insane. Like, I would say that this would be a saltwater environment steel. Like, if you work in a saltwater environment, this would be a steel that you could rely. I mean, I'm not saying it won't rust, but I'm saying if you're in a saltwater or a wet environment, this would be a good steel. because I don't think it would rust as readily as some of the other options. I mean, there are, I mean, let's look at it. 3V. 3V is technically a stainless, and it rusts like crazy. It rusts like crazy. Now, I'm not saying that this will hold an edge like I'm not saying it'll hold an edge like, say, like fucking 20CV or 204P. Definitely not anything like any of the stuff that Big Brown Bear is using. It kind of holds an edge. I want to say it holds an edge like a good 440C. Like a really, really good 440C, but then the sharpening is so much easier than 440C. 440C holds an edge fairly well. And I don't understand why we stopped making knives in it. 440C is a great steel. 440 is a great steel. Buck used it for years. Most of the knives, a lot of the knives I had when I was in the Navy after I joined were in 440. It's not, I mean, it gets a bad rap. It's a good all-around steel. But the edge this takes and the way it maintains it is not like, I'm saying for edge retention. Like 440 was pretty good at edge retention. It was just like, it didn't, sometimes it could be chippy, you know. 440 is one of those ones that's real picky on heat treat. This is just, I'm really impressed with it. And I wanted to do a video, but I wanted to get some of you guys' questions. Yeah, I've sharpened Garberg. I just sharpened a Garberg, not long ago for a guy, the Mora Garberg. And yeah, but it doesn't, like, that Garberg, I'm not gonna lie to you, that Garberg, by the time I was done with it, the blade was trying to turn orange. It's not like this. No, it's not like 440C. I said the edge retention. I said as far as like edge retention, how long it holds an edge really well, but then it strops up like nothing I've ever seen. So Steve, you might want to go back and look from the beginning, watch it from the beginning, because we're 27 minutes into it. So composition, similar to G2. I actually say that it feels better coming off of, no, I said I want to. Wait, what do you mean? Did they send me a knife to make your own knife with? No, I said I want to talk to them about getting a piece. For this, I actually recommend, not using the diamonds. It's one of those steels that you really don't need to use a diamond. It sharpens easily enough that you can just use a chromium oxide. And because you're only going, like I said, this is a 600 grit edge. 600 grit edge, and I haven't stropped it yet. And it's beautiful. It's great. It takes a really fine edge anyway, because it's a powdered metallurgy. So it's powdered steel. So it takes a fine edge. And even at like this is a 600 grit. Once I strop this, it's gonna look polished. 1,000 grit, still good. I took this a couple times. I went through different grits. So I took it all the way to 10,000 or 12,000 once. And don't get me wrong, it was a super crisp hair splitting edge, but it just didn't have what I wanted when it came to cutting. It was a little slippery. Like you like try to cut line and things. It just didn't have enough tooth. So I just kept going down, and I hit a point where 1,000 grit, I was like, all right, that's good. I was like, well, let's go down 400 and 600 grit. At between 600 and 800 grit seems to be about the perfect edge for this. I said, this one's a little bit of a finer edge right now, but it really doesn't feel like it, because all I'm doing is I'm touching this one up on a ceramic rod to see how well this one does, because this is a thicker blade. Same steel, just a different blade shape. And so this seems to be doing okay even with that finer. I think these are like 2,000 or 3,000 grit, something like that. But it's just aggressive. It's an aggressive edge on these. Later, buddy. My knives at this point have a tendency to hook when I'm stropping. I wonder if I'm making a burr. I don't know. I know that, like, I look at my strop to see if there's lines along the strop material, the stropping compound, to see if there's linear lines going up, because that tells me I've got a spot where either I've got a microchip or I've got a burr that I need to work. And sometimes like 2 passes, and if it's a burr, it's gone. If you're still getting lines on your strop, then that would indicate to me that I've got something, an edge issue. And then I'll take my thumbnail and I'll run it down. I'm like, oh, yep, there it is. There's a little clip. This had a little spot right here at the tip, and I can still kind of see it, that it had, it didn't chip, but it had a ding in the blade where I initially hit the metal. I did too. Like I said, you guys see my knives. Some of my knives have got super high polished edges, but that's just to showcase. And some knives, it's great for that. I'm not gonna lie, that M390 Riot that I've got is at 8,000 grit. It's super mirror polished, but it still cuts like crazy. And a lot of it has to do with whatever the heat treat that Riot used on those on that M390. Not all M390 knives are like that. I've had knives in M390 and 20 CV that don't take an edge like that, and a lot of it has to do with heat treat and how it forms carbides and things like that. So saying that you like a steel, I think should also be quantified by liking the steel from a maker. I've had 20 CV in knives that I did not like I did not like the way that 20 CV took an edge, or the way it felt, or the way it performed, because different heat treats. No, I don't think so, because I liked it enough. They sold the prototypes. Like, they sold prototypes that they had made. They sold them. They opened it up for sale, limited quantities. So I don't think they're going to be any different. There's not going to be any changes to the design. What it might be is sometimes the prototypes are hand ground. My personal one has a little bit of a difference from side to side, but that's because these were done. These weren't done in the process. These were, I think, if I remember right, were done by hand. So I don't foresee any differences in the prototypes. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, this knife's garbage, 20 CV." Like I don't know. I've very rarely had an issue with it, but I'm telling you, I've had knives come in that I was like, either this isn't actually 20 CV, which there's chances of that, depending on where you get, because these were knives from companies that were not as reputable as others. And I was like, either this isn't actually 20 CV, or they just screwed their heat treat up badly. So, like, I heat treated myself. I know what the heat treat was on this. I use the same standard heat treat every time. Those ovens keep it in a nice, it's not like I'm not forge quenching or anything. Yeah, they're sold out, Max. They're sold out. They had like 9 of these. They had 3 in each color, and they sold out in like 15 minutes. That was 2 days ago. Like, I already got mine. So I ordered one as a gift for a family friend when I saw that they were available, because I'm not going to send him a used knife. So I bought one for a friend of the family that had done a lot for my father when he did a lot for my father and my mother. He was closest thing that my dad had to a brother outside of actual family. And so to say thank you, I bought one and I'm sending it to him. It said they had 3 of each. That's, nah, I don't think so. They put them up the other day and they were sold out, because I bought one, and then a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I can't get on the internet right now. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Can you grab one for me?" He's like, "I don't have enough signal. Can you go?" And when I went back in, from the time I bought mine till the time I went back in, they were sold out. They're probably going to be available in a bunch of different places, Max. So they should be available. I don't think they are. I think it says that they were, but there's none available. September is they're looking at September. September they're looking at these being available. So, but you know, this wasn't about the knife. I did a video about the knife. I'm glad you all are curious about the knife. I just wanted to give you guys information about the steel because I know here the thing is they're not going to release the composition. You guys know what copyright's like in China. If they release the composition, everyone in China is going to be making it. They're trying to get it set up so that they have protection under some copyright somehow better than what they have now. So that's the only reason they haven't released it. It's not like they're keeping it a secret because they just want to keep it a secret. They're keeping it a secret so that they can protect their investment in this. I've seen a lot of tests 20 CV that didn't go well, but then again, I've also seen a lot of tests on a lot of other steels that didn't go well. It all goes down to heat treat. And the fact is, like, I understand that there's a lot of people that do the testing and they say the companies are lying and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that can happen in heat treat. There really are. Not so much in small batch, like when we're doing like 1 and 2 knives. Not as much because there's not as many variables. You got a smaller oven, smaller batch blades, more even distribution of heat. So I've never had a bad heat treat on any of the knives that I've done. But you can run into that because if you've ever seen how they heat treat like mass, now it's a big oven, like that you could stand in. So, you know, the heat distribution's not necessarily gonna be the same, so you'll have flaws and errors in heat treat. I don't, you know, not every knife's gonna be perfect. So like I was saying, I've seen bad tests. I've seen tests turn out bad from mystery steels. The carbon V steel. Cold Steel's carbon V steel, I'm convinced, is the 3rd hardest substance on the face of the earth. That was some of the best carbon steel. What's up, Hapacha? Hapacha! That was some of the best carbon steel I've ever had in a knife. It was Cold Steel's old carbon V. And I wish they would bring it back. It was a great steel. Some of the best steel I've ever had in a knife. As far as carbon steel. But then again, carbon steel is not always like, everybody's like, oh, it's an outdoors knife, it's got to be in carbon steel. I proved that wrong. 20 CV works really well in an outdoor setting. When Eric Outer took one of my production ones and was doing all kinds of, now this was not meant to do the stuff he did, so it didn't perform great, but it definitely held up to the rigors of what he's putting it through. Like it took, he bent the blade into a C shape and it came out straight. So a lot of people are like, oh, carbon steel is the only way to go for outdoor bushcraft. And I'm like, I don't always agree. This seemed to work incredibly well in an outdoor field setting. And with sharpening stones and sharpening kits and stuff like that now, taking that out in the field and being able to resharpen it out in the field, not that hard. 20 CV is not as daunting these days as it used to be for people. So, but like I said, this comes in a neck knife configuration. Oh, guys, so let me put this out now while I've got a handful of you still here. I talked with Artisan about the fact that this is technically a neck knife because it comes with a chain. If you order this you can order it without a chain. You can just tell them you don't want a chain. And I will like any of you guys that want to know, just email me. My email is in the description below. And I'll tell you what you need to do. Like basically you're just telling them like, send it without the chain. And they'll send it just with the sheath, no chain. For people like, I've got some customers in Europe where neck knives are prohibited. So then all you would have to do is you go on Amazon. These are like $8 a set. They're not even $8 a set. I think they're $6 a set. I think I got 3 of them for 18 bucks, something like that. I got 3 sets of these for 18 bucks. So it's just that simple. Like you can just tell them not to put the chain in and it'll be fine. Man, I really love this knife. I was surprised at how well how much more I liked it in the super thin profile. I was iffy about how thin we ground them, because I was afraid that they would be too thin. You know what I mean? You can reach a point where if you're using a knife for work that it's too thin, and I've done a lot of stuff with this, and I'm telling you right now, like opening stuff, like opening seals of packages and stuff, you get on it like this and just sounds like talk, Michael. I don't get it. Knife laws are stupid. I don't understand knife laws. This is a tool, plain and simple. So any other questions about, like I said, I'm doing different things with these two knives because they're different purposes. This one is getting like day-to-day use. This is more stuff that I would want to do with an outdoor folder. I did some feather sticks with this. This is really comfortable in hand. That's the other thing. It has going for it. The handle shape is really, really good. And the action is just fucking phenomenal. G1, G2. G1, G2. G1, G2 steel were real similar. The composition's not the same, but they're in that same ballpark as far as ratios. And G1 was a really good steel. I actually think this is better than the old GIN G1, G2 steel. It's got so many other things that it does so well. It's just great all around steel. Which, like, some steels really good on having hardness, but they're chippy. Some steels are really good at holding edge, but they're hard to sharpen. Some steels don't give you any of those benefits. And I'm gonna throw it. I don't like S30V because you get the difficulty to sharpen that you would expect in one of those super hard, high super steels. And it does give you an insanely crisp edge. I will say that S30V right off the stones and then stropped is probably one of the best feeling edges you've had in a long time. But the problem is it just chips. It chips so easily. So it's really difficult to sharpen. Like, it can be difficult to sharpen S30V. It takes a while. It doesn't want to take an edge the way you want it to. It doesn't want to polish up the way you want it to if somebody wants a super polished edge. Really, it likes to maintain its scratch pattern, but then it doesn't hold its edge real well. So, there's a lot of people that like S30V. That's fine if you really like it. Like, people argue with me all the time, but I just think it's not a very good steel. S35VN is a way better steel if heat treated really well. But, like, they all do something. A lot of them just do, like, one thing really well. Like, oh, I hold an edge really well. But you're like, fuck, you're a bear to sharpen and shit like that. S35VN all day over S30V. But this seems to just be all the way around. Like, it sharpens easily. It strops easily. It holds an edge really well. And it strops right back up. So maintenance is easy. Sharpening is easy. It holds an edge fairly well compared to a lot of other steels. It definitely, I'm going to tell you, it holds an edge better than, in my opinion, holds an edge better than S30V. S30V, just like, I did light duty cutting. I just cut paper. I cut paper and open packages, and my S30V Benchmade was chipping. So, and I do understand different companies, different heat treat. You might get S30 from one maker, and it's amazing. LMAX got a bad rep, because I don't want to say that because, when I talk about, like, different steels at different heat treats can be night and day from each other. There was a big thing. LMAX for a long time, people hated it because apparently there was a couple companies that when they were grinding it, overheated the edge. And then once you sharpened that initial portion out, it was fine. It got a little hot at the edge. So what would I get right now off the cuff? What steel? Well, I've got so many other steels. I'd have to say, if I was going to buy a plate of steel to make a knife in, just for me, if it was gonna be a knife for me, I'd make a fixed blade in this, the RPM9, if I could get it. RPM9, 20CV, RWL34. This is way up there now on my list of favorite steels. It's up there in that, it's up there in that second place. It's great corrosion resistant. Like I said, if you go back and watch this from the beginning, I talk about all that in the beginning, because this is a live feed. So it's incredibly corrosion resistant. I have not washed either one. Like, to clean these blades, I basically, like, whatever I've cut with it, except when I got the ferric chloride on it, the acid, I rinsed it and I wiped it off and then put it right back in my pocket. And it like wiped off. I've had this look like it got a patina on it a couple times. Because a lot of times steels, even stainless steels will patina. If you, like, I've cut a bunch of fatty meats and vegetables and stuff with this that normally would if you don't wipe it off good, could in a steel with less chromium leave a patina. Like VG10 leaves a patina. If you cut meat, it stains up. It gets an orange stain. Usually it'll wipe off pretty easily. This, I thought I had a patina on this one. I washed it off in the sink, wiped it off with a paper towel, and I was like, oh, I guess it was just a bunch of oil and stuff on it. Really corrosion resistant. And it polishes easily. It really does polish easily because the edges on these are fairly aggressive lower grit edges. And then when you look at it, can I send you a knife to sharpen? Yeah, absolutely. Email me. Hapachi, there's a link to my email in all of my videos. Well, the fact too is, even if this was the same as G1, the fact it's powdered, even if the composition was exactly the same as G1, it still wouldn't be the same because this is a powdered metallurgy. G1 was not. G1, G2 were not powdered metallurgy. I think they were rolled. I think they were rolled steels. So, you know, it's just, or foundry steels. I'm not sure how they did it. It might have been crucible steels. Who knows? But I do know that, like, this is not the same composition, but as far as like ratios, and in that, it's the closest I can compare you to. The closest I can get you in composition is like G2, which it's still fairly far off. There's a distinct difference, a very big difference. And when you're talking about steels, sometimes like a 1% difference of one item is a massive shift. Sometimes a 0.5% difference, a 0.5% difference can make a completely different performance in a steel. And this, I gotta give old boy, the owner of Artisan, like, this was his composition. Like, he came up with this. He worked with a company and they came up with it. And I was like, that dude's pretty smart, because you don't just kind of like end up with performance like this by accident. You gotta like be thinking about, like, I want this, I want this, I want this. Let's test, let's try this. This might get me where I want to be. And it came out great. Like, it's a pretty brilliant, it's a pretty brilliant material. I like it. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. So guys, it's been like 48 minutes. I am actually going to go to the shop today and work on handles for this knife. I believe, possibly. I did not film any of the stuff I said I was going to film. I didn't do it. I have not had time. The daughter's been training at the house. The daughter's schedule is weird this week. Like, they left at like 5 o'clock this morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock this morning to go skate. They're on their way home now. Yesterday they were here until 1. I didn't even start working out until, I didn't even get to work out until almost 1 yesterday. Because I worked out at the house here. I didn't work out at my friend's. I did not work out at my friend's gym. I just did. I did a leg workout here with a weighted vest and dumbbells to equate the weight. Today was not a heavy Tuesday is like my heavy leg day, where I go and I'm doing squats and stuff like that. Yesterday was just basically functional strength, like body weight squats with a little bit of extra weight, lunges, weird single leg squats, things like that. So they're on their way home from the ice. They're probably going to take a nap. I might be able to film a little this morning. Like I said, I want to try and go to Elliot's for a couple hours and at least I got handle material. Let me show you this. Let me see if I've got the other piece of handle material so this handle material came. I'm not happy. It happened, this is the second time they've done this, and I just basically, I give up. I give up. Where's that other piece of handle material? Here it is. So, ready? I ordered handle material. And it came in, and I spec'd out this thickness. This is the thickness I wanted. This is a piece of that green glow-in-the-dark fiberglass twill that I got that I used on my buddy Pip's knife, right? And you can see, it glows. I set it in the sun just for a second. I ordered plates of black micarta, big enough to make one handle, one side. There's two. I got 8 of these, so enough to make 4 sets of handles, right? See that? Now I checked the email I sent. I sent the specs for this, and they sent me this. I could almost split this down the middle and make 2 handles, but I can't because I don't have access to a saw that would do it accurately. So what I have to do is, I got to figure which side of this is true and flat, because one side of this has got a curvature to it, and I'm going to have to surface sand this on the grinders, on the belt grinders, to get this to the thickness I want, which is going to be a long, stinky, messy proposal. So I don't know what goes on. I'm not going to tell you who did it, but this and this are definitely different. I'm not happy. I'm not happy about that at all. I am going to make a knife for myself with these handles. This green glow-in-the-dark fiberglass twill, because there's a layer of black and then a layer of green and a layer of black and a layer of green. As you grind it away, if you saw the knife that I did for my buddy Jesse for Pip Corona, holy crap, this stuff was cool. I didn't ever figure it would come out as cool as it did, and it polishes nice, and it's fiberglass. You do, though, need to wear a long sleeve shirt when you're working with this stuff, because it's fucking nasty. I did not, the first day I was working it, I was like, oh my, but don't I itch. And I came home, took a real cold shower, and then when I got into working and finishing these handles, I definitely wore long sleeves, wrapped a towel around my neck, had my full face respirator and everything, because it gets everywhere. And the worst is when it gets on the back of your neck and then it gets down your shirt. So I had a towel around. It's working with fiberglass is nasty. I hate working with fiberglass, but the end result was amazing. So, any last minute questions? I'll give you guys another 7 minutes. We'll just make it an hour long. So, if there's anyone here that hasn't already liked the video, if you could, just give it a thumbs up before you leave on your way out, if you're leaving. I see as people are transiting out. Man, I love this one knife. I can't, so this CJRB RIA, I know we were talking about the steel. I'm not talking about the steel at all. If you handed this to me with no blade markings, no country of origin, nothing, and told me that this was a $200 knife, I'd be like, I can see that. I don't understand why people bash on things, and like simple stuff. We'll end this with like simple weird stuff that I can't figure out. Detent lash in some of these knives. This knife doesn't have any. Like you got. I'm like physically trying to make it do it. Do I have a knife in my pocket that has it? No, but I'll go get one. So as much as I love Eugene and the guys at Ergonomic, like people are complaining about detent lash in a $60 knife. But then I see the same people review let me go get this and we'll go back out to the kitchen. I see people, well, I'll get both of them. Both of these knives have it. So I see people complain about Detent lash in a $60 budget Chinese-made knife, right? And I mean, I don't like Detent lash, but it really, as long as it's not like something horrible in a knife. This knife has, I don't have a Norseman. Do you see how much Detent lash this knife has? Look, I don't have a Norseman. There is Detent lash in this fucking $500 knife, but people don't complain about it in this because this is damn near a custom. This Ergonomic is, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great. No, I do not have a Norseman. I've never owned a Norseman. This knife, Custom Knife Factory, Detent lash, but I don't hear people complaining about that. What I don't understand is they're willing to bash a company that's trying to do a good job and provide a decent product at a price point that's affordable, and they're bashing it, and it just, and they're saying like, oh, it's just Chinese crap. But I'm telling you, you find me a US made knife in the $60 realm, and I'm going to either call you a liar that it's better, or you're going to find an American company that's having their stuff made offshore. Russia, right? What are you talking about? This is Custom Knife Factory. That's Russia. This is Ergonomic, which is US made. But I'm saying, like, the Detent lash is not really Detent lash. What it is, I can feel it. It's lock bar flex. As you're loading, there's a little bit of lock bar flex. This knife is amazing. There's no problems with lockup. There's no problems with any of that. It just has a little detent play. Like maybe the hole might be a little bit big, but most of that is, and you can feel it, is lock bar flex. Titanium flexes. I don't understand the rationale behind bashing an affordable knife for something that you overlook in a high-end knife. It just seems so silly. These things that I just don't know, where people are coming from with the way that they're doing some of these reviews. Like every knife on my channel, regardless of price, gets the same scrutiny. If this wasn't a good knife, I wouldn't tell you. I'd tell you it was a piece of crap. This is a great knife. Is this knife at $500 any better than this knife at $50? No, it really isn't. Elliot named his first production knife that he made, the first like big run of 100, the pretium. You know what pretium is? Pretium is a Latin word for an item that has value only to its owner. You can't get any more descriptive of the knife world than that. People get blinded and sucked into the trap of, oh, this company actually cares about me. Now, some of your smaller companies, Ergonomic, I guarantee they care about every one of their customers. They do. They don't make that many knives. Ergonomic is great. I love Eugene and the guys at Ergonomic, and their knives are amazing. This is probably one of the ugliest, best knives I own. Because it's not. I mean, it's ugly. Pretium. 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 Yes. I'm a smart enough guy that I can find definitions for things in Latin. Elliot studied Latin and other languages. But this knife has got a weird, unique shape to it. And a lot of people would call it ugly. I would say it can, sometimes they can appear that way. However, comfort of this knife is amazing. The blade on it is great. But that doesn't make it any better than this knife. It makes it more expensive because this is higher end materials. This is M390 full titanium, ceramic bearings and stuff. This is steel blade, micarta with steel liners and a titanium pocket clip. This is not the pocket that comes with it, with bearings. It's all a matter of what does this knife do that this knife doesn't? Nothing. Nothing. That's where I get frustrated. Do I covet and like my expensive knives? Absolutely. Do I think that this knife might last longer than this knife? There's a good chance of it. There's a good chance this smaller knife with not as robust construction is not going to hold up to the rigors that this knife can. But is the average knife owner going to put this knife and this knife through those difficult, fucking really hard situations? Probably not. It's probably gonna sit in a case and get it taken out and looked at every once in a while. This gets used. All my knives get used, regardless of price. So in a big scope of things, a guy like me that uses his knives really hard from time to time, this knife might not last as long as this knife. But the thing is, that's a $60 knife. If this goes bad and I ruin it, I can replace it. This is a $500 knife that they don't make anymore. What do you figure? All right, guys, I'm out of here. I got other stuff to do today. This will be coming soon. This, Elliot releases on Friday. Look for a video about a new release from Ferrum Forge. I'm carrying a prototype right now. Not going to get into it. Don't forget, I'm still giving away the Micro Fortis. If you haven't already entered into that, you should go find the Micro Fortis giveaway video. These are available. I will tell you, I only have one to give away, and there's already 90 comments. There's 90 people entered. If you want one of these, go to ferrumforge.com and order one of these Micro Fortises, because they're actually really cool. They're well made if you're into the micro knives. Go buy one, because with 90 people entering, they're going to be sold out by the time 15th. The 15th of the month is when I'm doing that. You got 4 or 5 more days, 5 or 6 more days. Today's the 8th. You got like seven more days. They could be sold out by then. So if that's something you want, I would go and order one. And if you win one, then you got 2. If you win mine, you get a free one. But if you want one of those micros, I would advise buying them now. They are flying off the shelves rapidly. They are going quickly. So when you order them, just tell them like, hey, Mike sent me. Just because we're curious about how many of these knives, the Micro Fortis? Yeah, I've been playing with them. I got to play with the prototypes. Guys, if Ferrum Forge puts out a knife, there's a good chance I saw the prototype 6 months ago. This knife is being released on Friday. I've had this in my pocket for the better part of 4 months. I've had this in my pocket since April. This is a prototype that Elliot gave me to carry. So these are on their website. If you want to get one, I would go get one before they sell out. Not trying to, but like I said, just tell them in the message, like when you order one, just tell them I sent you, because I'm just curious how many people that follow me are buying items based on my review. Just out of idle curiosity, for me, I would appreciate it. So guys, I gotta go. It's been 63 minutes. I'll give you like till 65. I'll give you 2 more minutes for any comments or questions real quick. Now I sound like an instructor. Got any comments, questions? Got any questions or comments? Hold them to the end. I'm gonna do a live feed like that fucking Asian dude did, where he just for 2 hours just watched the camera. Did you guys see that? Like that guy set a record for a live feed, like 2 million views for a live feed, right up front. It just people were watching and people were sharing it. They're like, dude, check this out. He's gonna do something, and they just sat and watched a guy stare at a camera for 2 hours. Like 2.5 million views, something like that. Length of the prototype blade? I don't have specs on it. I haven't shot the video about this yet. Elliot is going to send me the specs on this knife. This was given to me because it's completely naked. There are no markings. I don't know what the steel is. I wanted to give it a clean and fair and fresh review. So I can't tell you the specs. This specs on this are going to be different because this is actually a little heavier than the final version. But what I'm telling you is, like, I wanted to go into this blind, so I don't know what the steel is. I don't know any of the specs. So this blade has been blasted and tumbled, so all the markings have been obscured. So I don't know what the steel is. I couldn't even tell you. We'll talk about it. Plus, prototypes aren't always in the same steel as the production, so just depends. So, all right, guys, that's the 5 minutes. I'm out of here. I love you guys. Like I said, AR-RPM9, it's great. It's great stuff. I'm gonna send a link to this video to Russell, so he can share it. Like I said, guys, I'm really impressed with it. So, like I said, if you guys haven't dropped a like already on your way out, please do so. It helps these videos get shared. It helps helps the channel. Guys, I'm out. Talk to you later. See you next time.